Starting at midnight today, we cannot receive people in our homes in red zones. If you're inviting guests for a party, you're breaking the law. When this happens, police officers can give fines of $1,000. If the person refuses to cooperate, officers can remotely ask a judge for a warrant to intervene.
Legault also says wearing a mask will be mandatory for protesters, or they could too face a $1,000 fine. Joining us now, CTV News legal analyst Boris Bytensky. Boris, thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure, Maria.
Okay, so this is brand new for Quebec, where they are going to basically get permission, legal permission, to enter somebody's home if they're having a party and start handing out fines. Quebec, we know most Quebecers value their privacy above all, and this is going to be hard to enforce. But first of all, what do you make of the process?
Well, the process is a clear message from the Premier of Quebec that they're taking the current potential second wave of COVID-19 very seriously, and they're trying to do whatever is possible through legislative means to try to take very significant measures and reduce the numbers and to keep the numbers as low as possible. So, in fact, the proposed measures go even further, not just that they can enter the homes with a special telewarrant to issue the tickets. They can actually enter the homes and disperse the gatherings and remove people from homes that aren't supposed to be there with force if they have reasonable grounds to do that. So there are very significant powers that have been granted to the police through this legislation that may well be challenged, but they're going to be going into effect, and subject to the discretion of the police officers who are going to be tasked with enforcing the law. I expect some of these measures are going to be taken swiftly and pretty much right away, starting tomorrow.
Okay, so Boris, give me an idea of other situations where police would be allowed to enter your home.
Well, leaving aside sort of emergency circumstances, or what the law calls exigent circumstances, the police are allowed to enter your home to do a search with a warrant. They're allowed to enter your home to make an arrest, again, with a warrant in certain circumstances. And leaving aside when, a case where somebody runs inside their home as they're fleeing from the police, generally speaking, they cannot enter their home without either a consent of the homeowner or judicial authorization, which usually comes in the form of a warrant. So this is a process that they're allowed to apply for this type of authorization by telecommunications. So it can be a fax or an email. They can apply for judicial authorization on short notice. It will be available presumably 24 hours a day. A judge can give that authorization to allow somebody to enter the home if necessary to enforce the new provisions of the legislation. And I do expect it will be challenged, but by the time it gets challenged, this will be well down the road. Both for the fact that the courts aren't necessarily open right now throughout the country, but also just because that's how charter litigation usually goes. The pace is usually slow. So I do expect that this will be happening, subject to potential future challenge.
And you mentioned that police, if they go into the home, can disperse people and use force if needed?
Yeah, so if you're breaking the law, the police can take steps to effectively enforce compliance. I expect them to exercise their discretion. I don't expect they're going to remove children and put them in the middle of the street. But if you have a gathering which involves guests that are in your home that is contrary to the new provisions, they can take steps to actually remove you and either place you under arrest if you're unwilling to comply, or simply to remove you from the residence and make sure that you leave and become compliant with the new law as it's drafted.
Okay, so lay out the scenario for me, because clearly police aren't going to start rolling up to people's homes randomly. Somebody would have to call in and say, I think there's a party at my neighbor's house.
I think that's right. So the law, as far as I understand it, does not allow the police to go into homes to investigate whether or not the law is being broken. So the police would first have to have a reasonable basis to believe that an offense is being committed. They could then attend at the residence for the purpose of issuing a ticket. And if, for example, the homeowners didn't then take steps to comply, if the party was ongoing and people weren't taking reasonable steps to leave, they could then apply for judicial authorization to go further, enter the home for the purpose of not only just issuing further tickets, but also to force compliance with the law to remove them from the home.
Wow. I'm going to have to keep a close eye on this one and see how it rolls out, because I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Maybe not the first week, but the week after that. Boris Bytensky, sir, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.